I'm a little bit late getting here. Family stuff that all just kind of popped up as times went along. Today, we come to Ephesians 5, verse 25 through 28. Now, yesterday, in about 3 verses, Paul had been addressing women, how they ought to be going forward and looking at their marriage, how they are to go forward in marriage. Today and tomorrow, we go into how God then says this for men in that marriage. As God brings husband and wife, male and female, together in in marriage. Now, as a husband is married, how should he go forward? Verse 25. Husbands, love your wives. Now, notice it talks about love right here. Now, this is not two things. On the one end, it is not this just love, love, love. What is love? That's going to be the next step. But note also very intimately what's going on here. When it talks about love, that's as opposed to the entire culture. The whole culture was, the whole culture of that day was the husband rules the wife. That's how all of the culture was in that day. The husband rules the wife. What do we find here in Ephesians? Husbands, love your wives. And so just by bringing forth the word love here is totally foreign to the entire culture of what's going on, because it's saying love your wives. And then we'll explain what love is in a moment. But he's bringing it up as opposed to ruling. So a husband is not called on to rule the roost. That's not what Paul is saying here. In fact, it's opposing that. Husbands, love your wives. And how should we love our wives? How much? How incredibly? As Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. This is love. In other words, the love, he had just talked to the ladies, now he's talking to the men. This love is a self-sacrificial love. Marriage, husband and wife brought together, is self-sacrificing on both ends. Both sides are to give up and to sacrifice on behalf of the other. And here, talking to the men, self-sacrifice. Be willing to give up yourself for your wife. Be willing to do whatever needs to be done on behalf of her, because love your wife. Christ sacrificed himself for us and for the church. That's the love that's being talked about here. A self-sacrificial love on behalf of the other, as Christ went to the cross for the church, for each one of us. And he went and he gave himself up for us, verse 26, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, having cleansed her. In other words, as Christ went to the cross, thinking baptismal language here, this all took place to wash us of our sin, so that we might be presented perfect, pure before the Lord. All of this purely out of love, a self-sacrificial love. Verse 27, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing. In other words, as he went forward with the church, doing all of what needed to be done, he went forward in that way to make her better, to cleanse her, meaning the church, of her sin. A husband is to be there to self-sacrifice on behalf of his wife, absolutely, to help her to grow, to help her to become stronger, to help her become more pure in the Lord in faith. all of that. Now, should the husband do that as well? Yes, but here the husband's responsibility is to be there to help his wife, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself. That is the love that this is talking about. Husbands, love your wife. Be willing to sacrifice on behalf of her. And this sacrifice is not, I sacrifice, so you sacrifice now. No, it's I sacrifice, knowing I might not get anything back, but I sacrifice. I go forth in order to help my spouse to grow, become stronger, and be stronger in the faith. And I love my wife out of the love of Christ Jesus that has been given to me. That example of Christ, husbands, is the example of our love for our wives.